This one is a little strange. When I was a kid, my sister and I would go down and visit my grandparents on a family farm. They lived in Lone Oak, Georgia. Lone Oak, sandy, southern country, south of Atlanta. And my grandfather had grown up there, and his father, and his father, and his father, and his father. We had a family farm there that dated back to 1854. They grew cotton, plowed mules, ate saltfish, hard scrabble stuff. Descended from Confederate veterans and that sort of thing. And when I was pretty young, my grandfather would do something I haven't actually seen since then. When I describe it, it's a little bit disconcerting, but it was normal then, and certainly normal to him. They would catch and eat snapping turtles. He would take a 22 rifle, shoot an old blue jay in the yard, get on the phone, call these fellows that lived down the road. They'd come by, get his cage out of the barn, take it down to the river, tie a rope to it, throw it in the river. It's just an old muddy river. Within a couple of days, they'd come back after checking it. The turtle could get in, but he couldn't get out. And that was his downfall, and they'd bring it up there to the farm where we were. And my grandfather would have me participate in what came next, but he would aggravate the front end of the turtle with a pitchfork. Eventually that thing would open its mouth up to try to bite him, and he'd stick that pitchfork through the bottom part of his jaw, stick him down on a 2x4. Now he'd have me grab that tail, pull it as hard as I could until that neck came out as far as it could, and he'd chop his head off. We'd take that old turtle head and throw it over in the burn barrel. He'd take a big sharp knife, start cleaning that thing, and eventually he'd have a lot of meat. He'd take the meat and grind it up, put it with spices, and make sausage patties, turtle patties, he called them. We'd have some fresh. Some of them would go in, you just cook them up like sausage, eat them with a biscuit. Some of them go in the freezer, deep freeze. He'd take some of those parts, I don't know which ones, and make some kind of a soup, kind of milk based, kind of tastes like now that I think about it, like a oyster stew or something like that, out of New England, that sort of thing, butter and milk. And quite frankly, it was all delicious. Seems kind of weird now, but I remember taking a bowl of that old soup and walking out in the yard with it, walking by that burn barrel on that turtle. His head still wasn't dead, and he'd watch me go by, like, like that. That's disconcerting when you're sitting there eating him and realize he's watching it. Kind of strange there, how to take that, but apparently their heads don't need much oxygen. I know some people like that, but they don't need much oxygen because they're used to getting down at the bottom of the river and getting in that mud and just laying down there for an hour or two, and never need another breath. So apparently you cut the oxygen off to them, they don't give a hoot for a while, and it comes back to haunt them. But that was a strange thing, and looking back, I just don't see a lot of that around me anymore. But those were the times, and this would have been in probably around 1960, 61, something like that. I think it's just a southern thing, maybe.